We're fortunate to have Ben Jealous in with us now to talk about his big win. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure it was a late night.
It was. It was a fun night, though.
Yeah, I want to talk about you. You ended up getting about 40% of the vote. There were a number of Democrats on the ticket. What sets you apart, first of all, from the other Democrats who ran in this race?
You know, we won in 22 out of 24 counties. We won by a big margin. We actually ended up getting more votes, despite it being an 8-way race, than Hogan did in his primary. And what we showed is that we can unite the people of the state by running towards them on the big issues that they want solved. We talked about what does it take to finally fully fund our schools, make sure that that broken promise on the casino money is kept. What does it take to finally make sure that healthcare costs stop choking small businesses and pushing people into poverty? Focusing on issues like that, campaigning in every corner. That's how we won last night. That's how we'll win this fall.
Okay, back though to the original question. What's the difference? I mean, what was the difference politically speaking and on the issues between you and Rushern Baker and the others?
Yeah, I mean, like literally, it's about focusing on solving like the whole problem, not nibbling around the edges. Having the courage to say it takes Medicare for all if we're going to end this healthcare crisis, if we're going to get a better deal from the pharmaceutical companies, having the courage to say, you know what, yes, our teachers need to be respected. They also need to be paid better. And we've got to make sure. I was the first one who came out in the very beginning and said that the casino money, the promise has been broken. We got to keep it. And we also have to go further. And so, you know, my whole life, my grandmother's 101. She's a Maryland social worker for decades. She would always say, baby, don't try to half solve a problem because you'll still have a problem. And what made us different from the beginning is we've attempted to put solutions on the table to solve whole problems for real people.
So at the end of the day, your issues, first and foremost, you're proposing to raise teacher pay by 29%. You want to fund universal pre-K in Maryland. You want to pay for that by going ahead and legalizing the recreational use of marijuana and taxing that. So the programs sound great. Obviously, the issue comes when it comes time for the check and paying for them. So if you can't do those things, like, you know, you have to go through the legislature, obviously, to get the marijuana referendum approved and then to the voters as well. So if you can't do that, if you can't get them to come through on the casino money as well, where would we be?
Yeah, I'm running for government. One thing that makes me different is I'm actually running to lead the people of the state. It's the people of the state who give the politicians courage. You know, that's how I got us to abolish the death penalty when I led that battle. When I co-chaired the effort to pass the DREAM Act, they said that would be tough too. We got that passed, same way. And that's how we'll win these victories. We take our case to the people, and then we let the people push the politicians to do the right thing. I've been an organizer my whole life who specializes in getting tough things done. So when you tell me that it's tough, that's what I'm used to. And what I'll tell you, you know, on this, you know, taxes, I'm happy to have a debate with Hogan on taxes. Hogan told the people of the state he was going to cut their taxes, you know, all kinds of, he didn't do that. You know, what do you do? He cut some polls. He cut some tolls. He's a gimmick governor. And you know what? Let's have a real conversation about taxes, about fairness. If you're a senior citizen living on a fixed income in Baltimore and your house is being foreclosed on because you can't afford to pay your property taxes are too high, that's not fair. And yet, if you're a hedge fund manager and you're paying a lower effective tax rate than your secretary, well, that's not fair either. So let's have a conversation.
Now, you say Hogan is a gimmick governor.
He is,
He's
for sure.
got a 70% approval rating. Yeah. Obviously, early on, polls show him beating you in a head-to-head match by 10 points. Obviously, that will change between now and Election Day, as we know. But the people of the state overwhelmingly right now support and approve of the job that he's doing. And yet, doesn't it kind of undercut the voters to say, you know, you're buying into gimmicks?
Here's the thing. The voters have been very clear. A majority of voters in Maryland say they're not better off than they were 4 years ago. It's occasionally you might see a poll where he pokes up to 51% of voters saying that they'll vote for him again, but usually it's down in the 40s. And so the voters have been very clear that they're looking for new leadership. They want to move forward. They want to feel like they're doing better. I mean, every state we look in that surrounds us, incomes are up by thousands over the last 4 years. Here in Maryland, we're up by hundreds. Our schools have fallen from first to sixth. I'm doing what a good organizer does. I listen to the people of the state. We figure out what the real solution is, and we present that back. We build a movement, and we win. I started off in 4th place. We had 6% of the vote when this thing started. And last night we won, as you said, with 40% by a huge margin in all but 2 counties.
40%, though, it still leaves a lot of Democrats you've got to win over.
Well, that was versus 7 other Democrats. I think we all know that in an 8-way race, you get 40%, that's dominant. And what you'll see when it's a 2-way race with Larry Hogan, just like we went from 6 to 40% of Democrats, just like we got more votes than he got last night, we'll get more votes than he gets come November.
To woo those Democrats, though, don't you? I mean, the lessons of Anthony Brown are pretty fresh.
Absolutely, and I'm a tough campaigner. I've been campaigning for 400 days. I've been all over this state. I got the endorsement of the teachers with 85% of the vote. It's unheard of. We can't find somebody else who did that first time out the gate. How'd I do it? I went to every single county. I offered to meet with teachers in every single county and met with them in almost every single county, listening to them. We'll do the same thing with voters all across the state.
I want to get a 30,000 viewpoint here for a second. If you look at all the cable news organizations, the midterm elections, they say it's a referendum on President Trump.
Yeah.
It's, correct me if I'm wrong here, it's unlikely that any of the congressional districts in Maryland are going to flip. So what is a reason for a voter in Maryland to get excited about going to vote? Why would turnout not be low this November? Because can you say that a vote for Hogan or a vote for you is a referendum on Trump? I mean, I don't see this race as being tied closely.
Folks will turn out this fall because we've got to solve the healthcare crisis. It's choking our small businesses. It's pushing families into poverty. I'm a small business guy. I've been a seed stage venture capitalist for half a decade. And what I know is that our small business people are being choked right now because under Hogan, healthcare costs have surged more than 10% every year. Folks will turn out to solve the healthcare crisis. Parents like me, I got 2 kids in the public schools in our state. We will turn out to make sure that that casino money actually is used for the purpose it was promised, to increase funding for our schools. People will turn out to make sure that we get the student debt crisis under control. I mean, think about it for a second, right? Think about the deal that the baby boomers got and before, and what we're getting and what younger folks are getting. When my granddad went to the University of Maryland School of Law, the tuition was $200. Right. If that kept up with inflation today, it'd be $2,600. It's actually more than $31,000. You tell a young person that we're going to end mass incarceration and take the $660 million a year we can save and shift it into public higher education to bring down the cost, they will turn out to vote.
Can you do all this without raising taxes?
I've been very clear from the very beginning that as a business person, I reject the notion that you always got to pay more to do better. Sometimes you just got to do better to do better. That's what ending mass incarceration is about. And frankly, as the youngest president in the history of the NAACP, I helped get it done in states much tougher than ours. And so we can send that savings right in. So we don't, the notion that doing better requires raising taxes, I think is kind of silly. Now, with that said, I've also leveled with the people of the state. All our plans are on our website. We've said, we've been very clear that, we will legalize and tax cannabis for adult use. I'm okay with, sports gambling. There will be some revenues there. I'm also okay with us saying that the way that we're going to pay for our community colleges being tuition free is taxing the 1% more. I've been in that tax bracket, and the years that I've been, I can totally afford to pay 1% more, especially if what it means is that when every kid is done with their public education in Maryland, they're ready for a career. Because when you're growing a small business, you run straight into the fact that we're not preparing enough young people in Maryland for the jobs that we have here. We have to keep paying to recruit people from elsewhere. So happy to have that conversation.
Along those lines, I want to let you respond to a spokesperson for Governor Hogan today putting out a statement saying his risky and irresponsible schemes would require massive middle-class tax hikes.
Yeah. Look, Larry Hogan's trying to call names and scare people because he doesn't have a plan to make their lives better.
So middle-class tax hikes out of the question.
Yeah. I mean, I've put all my plans on the table. They're all there on the website. Please go find the one that he's talking about.
Okay. The next governor of this state, who is sworn in January, could have the potential to preside over one of the biggest economic boons in the state's history if our region lands this Amazon HQ2. I want to ask you a couple questions about that, but first, do you agree with that statement? Would that be a massive economic boon for Maryland?
If you negotiate the deal right, it could be. That would require the other 2 states' jurisdictions that will benefit, the entire DMV, helping to foot the bill. Right now, the question is what state benefits the most from the Amazon deal? It's the two that don't have to pay for it. The economists have been clear that we couldn't afford $5 billion. We would never make it back. Now it's $8.4 billion that's on the table last time I checked.
You think the incentive package that Hogan has laid out
is poorly negotiated. It's frankly negotiated as if it was done by a land developer like him rather than a businessman like me. Because what I would have done is pulled together the leaders pulled in Northam, pulled in Mayor Bowser, and said, let's put one deal on the table because we're all going to benefit. We should all invest.
A couple more quick things for you. Governor Hogan tweeted today that he looks forward to a vigorous debate on the direction
Let's start
of our
them next
state.
week and keep on going.
So
I'm so happy to debate him. I'd love to do it. So please, if you want, he doesn't need to look forward to it for long. I'll say right here, please, Governor Hogan, let's start the debates now.
So my question for you is, the emotions of the 2016 campaign are still raw. So are the voters here in Maryland over the next few months going to see this vicious vitriol, this barrage of negative ads? Is it going to take over our lives between now and November?
Here's the thing. Larry Hogan very well might do that. He only benefits from voter turnout going down.
What are you going to do?
And the best way to do that is to beat people over the head with negative ads. I'm going to do what I've been doing, running a positive, future-focused campaign on how we move our families forward by actually ensuring that our schools get back to first in the country. They've fallen to 6th under Hogan. How we actually solve our healthcare crisis. You know, I tried to move a factory from Canada to South Baltimore. Deal fell apart because under Hogan, the healthcare costs keep surging. And how we bring down the cost of our public universities, because what got my family out of poverty, my grandparents, my mom, out of poverty in West Baltimore, was the fact that my granddad could go to the University of Maryland School of Law when the tuition was $200. Like I said, that should be $2,600 today. It's actually $31,000. We will fix that when I'm governor.
I want to hit the off-ramp for our interview, but first a right turn and just kind of take back the reins a little bit. I'm interested in knowing what you do for fun and what your favorite spot in Maryland is.
You know, my favorite spot is my backyard. I live on the Magathie River in Pasadena. I can kayak to Dobbins Island every afternoon, and I chose to live in paradise, and I love it.
Okay, so maybe we'll see the kayaking campaign. That's tremendous. Listen, congratulations on your win. We look forward to a vigorous debate and a hard-fought campaign. Ben Jealous, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay.